It is Alan, and today's video is from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And what I'd like to talk to you guys about today is a topic that I've already talked to you about, which is how to choose a quality improvement project. Now from here, you can see all of old Montreal, new Montreal, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to revise one of the old topics. Because the video that I already have on this topic is very conceptual, but I feel that I didn't really put a step-by-step process in place for you to follow if you're looking to start a quality improvement project. So that's what I'm going to do for you today here. So by the end of this video, you'll have a good head start on a topic for your quality improvement project. So step one is to be mindful in your day-to-day practice. So this is going to generate the fodder for your grist for the mill, so to speak, for your projects. So your projects are generally going to fall into three main categories. One is a best practice that is not getting done. So for example, providing patient education upon discharge. Second flavor is a bad practice that is getting done too frequently. So you can pick from any of the Choosing Wisely Canada campaigns for tests that are ordered that shouldn't be, or drugs that are ordered that shouldn't be. And the third flavor is things that are taking too long. So there's things like test turnaround times or emergency room wait times, for example. So once you have a few of these ideas, they're not all going to be potential quality improvement projects. Some of them are going to be better than others. So what I would suggest is putting your potential topic through 4 questions as a filter. First question that I would suggest asking yourself is, how easy is it to get consensus on best practice for your topic in question? So if there's a lot of strong evidence, guidelines, or at the very least local expert consensus that the best practice that you have in mind is the way forward, then it'll be relatively easy to get support for your project. But this is one of the main sources for resistance in your project if you can't get consensus. So if not everyone agrees that the problem you've identified is in fact a problem, then you may actually have fallen into the pitfall of selecting a conventional research project, and more evidence is actually needed before you proceed with a quality improvement style project. Second question to ask yourself is, how easy is it to link your best practice to a specific behavior? The more directly you're able to link the practice to behavior, the more easy it's going to be to generate solutions and carry out a project. An example of one that is easily linked is ESR ordering. So this is a project that we did in London Health Sciences, in which we reduced the amount of ESRs ordered, as this is by consensus a fairly low value test. So the behavior we wanted to change is just don't order the test. By contrast, however, a more complex project would be tackling ER wait times. So this is much more involved and requires a lot of investigating to determine exactly which behaviors you'd need to intervene on in order to start reducing some of those times. So much more investigating needed, much more complex topic, which would be a much broader scope project. So just because you've got a complex project doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, just means you might need more resources, more time. So question number 3 is, to what degree are the problems and potential solutions within your sphere of influence? So if you're trying to influence behaviors that are outside of your immediate control, that's going to be very difficult and a more involved project. So one example of a good small project that was within sphere of influence was one that the respirology fellows carried out within the last year. So they looked to implement COPD action plans for everybody who was discharged with a COPD exacerbation on the respirology ward. So this involved influencing respirology residents, fellows, respirology nurses, and 1 or 2 COPD navigators, all people who were relatively close within the sphere of control of the respirology physicians. So in contrast, however, if you're looking to reduce the amount of IV iron in, the amount of blood transfusions given for iron deficiency in the emergency room, I myself as a hematologist would have a very small amount of influence on ER physicians, and so that again would not necessarily be an impossible project, but would require a lot more planning and deliberateness involved. So the fourth and final question is, how easy is it to keep score in your quality improvement project? And subject of another video will be data over time. And so what you're going to be looking to do is display over time how your performance improves or doesn't improve. That's going to involve very small but very consistent data collection. And so if it's easy to collect the data, that bodes very well for your project, but if it is arduous and very time consuming to collect your data, perhaps that's not such a good project to select. And so a good example of easy to collect data would be, for example, our blood transfusion project, where we look to increase the amount of 1 unit as opposed to 2 unit transfusions on the oncology ward. That data was already being automatically collected by the blood bank. An example of very difficult to collect data would be our patient-oriented discharge summaries project, where we're looking to see exactly how many patients got education prior to discharge. So that would involve actually physically going into patient charts and auditing them to see the degree to which, or even if, education happened. So because we're going to be collecting that data on a very frequent basis, clearly a easy data collection strategy would be preferred to a difficult one. Sounds like common sense, but it's definitely something that should be thought of before you embark on your project. So to summarize, once you have the seeds of your quality improvement project brainstormed through mindfulness from day-to-day practice in the 3 flavors: best practice that's not occurring, bad practice that is occurring, or things that are taking too long, use the 4-question filter to determine if your project is feasible. So question 1, to what degree are you able to achieve consensus, at the very least local expert consensus, for best practice? Second, to what degree can you link that best practice directly to a behavior? Third, to what degree are problems and solutions within your sphere of influence? And lastly, how easy is it going to be to collect data and keep score on your project? That way you can get your project off to a good start and not run into problems when you're already halfway down the line into the project's lifeline. So with that, I'm going to wrap up for now. This is Alan signing off from Montreal. Peace.